Well, welcome to Actually Aubrey, and we're here tonight with the Ready to Love Potomac star, Miss Sabrina. Welcome, Sabrina. Welcome in.
Hi, Aubrey. Hi, Alex. Thanks for having me.
Yes, thank you for being here. Thank you for being here. We're very excited.
Very
Thanks for having
excited.
me. The A team. Thank you.
I love it. That's so cool. Well, Sabrina, we just want to just get started. We're so excited to have you. We thank you for taking out time out of your busy schedule and agreeing to have this interview with us, this sit down conversation, as we call it. Can you tell us a little bit? We want to go back to kind of your younger days, your beginning, your youth, your childhood. I believe you were one of the cast members that was not born and raised in the DC area necessarily. Can you tell us about where you were born and where you were raised?
Yeah, absolutely. First I want to say thanks for having me. I appreciate the opportunity and I'm really excited to talk with you all. So I'm from the San Francisco Bay Area. I'm from Northern California. I was born in Oakland, California, and then around the time that it was time for me to go to school, my parents moved us to Alameda, California, which is an island in between Oakland and San Francisco. So my mother is Latina. She's Nicaraguan. My father is Black. He's African American. I'm their first child together, but I am the second eldest of 4 siblings. So I have 2 brothers and a sister. And so, raised in the Bay Area with my mother and my father in the house for most of my adolescence. Alameda, unlike Oakland, was a predominantly white and Asian community. So I definitely grew up being, the token Black child in school, or the token mixed child in school, I should say. But it was, nestled in the Bay Area. So there's like a lot of progressive, culture about in terms of like environmentalism and LGBTQ lifestyles and things of that nature. Like those are things that, I was exposed to at like a very young age. I was very outgoing growing up. I loved to be outside. I loved nature. I loved adventure. As the second eldest, I found myself, running around after my brother. Whatever he did, I wanted to do. You know what I mean? Like, I didn't have like an older sister that was like, playing in makeup or doing her hair. Like I had an older brother who was trying to like build forts and like climb trees and things like that. And so that's what I wanted to do. That to me was that drew to me. And so I was definitely like the tomboy growing up. Unlike my sister, she was always fairly girly, I guess you'd say, or fairly feminine from like a very young age. So, which drove my mother crazy. My mother is very traditional in a lot of ways. She's traditional Latina. She wants us to wear.
Hello?
Oh, she froze.
And she looks so pretty too. She's like a beautiful frozen statue. Like I'm thinking of what is that? There she is.
Yeah.
we were teasing. I said you kind of reminded me of that Trousseau frozen statue. You're so beautiful and you're just like frozen in time.
I was like, I don't know the last thing they heard, but
my mother wanted me to wear. And you stopped.
Oh, yeah. So my mom wanted me to wear like the skirts and, the dresses with the stockings and like the bows and the
like
lace
my mother
and all of that. There was actually this time where like, I remember not telling her that it was picture day. I was like, oh, I'm not gonna tell her it's picture day because I wanted to dress myself. You know what I mean? Like I had this whole scheme and like, I dressed myself. I had like, I remember a long sleeve shirt and like a vest or something like that. Like that's what I wore for like picture day. And so she got like, the samples, like I brought home the samples. I was all excited, like, look at the samples. And she was like, oh, I didn't know your picture day passed. Like, I know. She's like, and I was like, oh yeah, but it's okay. She was like, no, we're not going to buy these. So I think I'm like missing like the 3rd grade or something like that.
Oh,
when it's like, I was like, so yeah, I was definitely, I'm close to both my parents, but I was definitely a daddy's girl growing up. You know what I mean? Definitely daddy's girl. I think it was around the time that I hit puberty that I stopped being a daddy's girl.
Running behind boys now. You don't want daddy around.
That was around the time when I was like, boys are cute. And my dad was like, no, like absolutely
they
not,
are not.
And so I kind of shifted into becoming a little bit more of a mama's girl. Cause then I was finally at the point in my life where like, I wanted to be cute. I wanted to be pretty. And it was like, my mom's like, finally, finally, finally you want to dress up and do something with your hair and, do all those things. So she was like all about it. And so I think that kind of like shifted. But I would say, I have a very close-knit family. Like, neither of my parents are from Northern California. Like I said, my mom is Latina. She's from Central America. She, she migrated here. And then my father, he's from Ohio, even though our family's from the South, like Alabama, Mississippi, but he's from Ohio. And so they were like both kind of like transplants in the Bay Area who found each other and fell in love. And so I didn't really grow up with like tons of like cousins and aunts and uncles. Like we had like maybe like 2 uncles around and like a few play cousins and things like that. But we didn't have like a lot of family. It was us, And so we were really, really close in that sense. So I've always like kind of admired like my friends growing up where they would have like a birthday party and it'd be like a tribe of people would just like be show
all
up.
Their first, second, and third cousins would come.
Right. And I remember being like, who are all these people? Like, oh, these are my family members. And their like celebrations would be so large. And as a kid, they're getting like tons of gifts, right? So, like,
that matters.
Gifts from all these extended family members. I was like, who are these? So it was just kind of those things that I've always kind of looked at as like, I loved how close we were, but it definitely would have been nice to have more family around. And so, but I was a tomboy. I was a nerd for a very long time.
Do you know what brought your family, your parents specifically, to the West Coast? Was it your father in the military? Was it work or a job that moved them out to California?
Actually, it was my father's first wife who kind of made him move. He fell in love with his college sweetheart. She actually went from Ohio to California, and so he followed her. So it was love that brought him there. My mother, she migrated to the United States from Central America in the 80s, and she first landed in Florida. But at the time, there was the Cuban refugee crisis. And so she just felt like a lot of the programming and stuff in like South Florida was very much geared towards like helping like Cubanos and stuff. And so she had an aunt who lived in San Francisco. And so she went to San Francisco. She visited some friends in LA, but San Francisco had like really progressive like immigration policies and immigration services. So they had like systems built in place for like people who are from other countries to like, be able to get job certifications, to be able to do these things, and so my mom was luckily able to get hired at like the city and county of San Francisco. So she was like, oh, I got a government job. Like, she was like, I'm set. You know what I mean? So it was like circumstances that kind of like led them to be together. But my father's an architect and my mother. Yeah, my father's an architect. And so I grew up with like an appreciation for like the built environment, like looking at buildings, looking at the way its structures are, just aesthetically, like very sensitive to that because of him. My mother worked for this city, for the urban planning department for San Francisco. And so that's how they met.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Now I get it. Okay.
Yeah. Wow. And I grew up to be an urban planner, and it wasn't meant to be that way. It just kind of happened. Maybe it was meant to be that way. I don't know. But there was no pressure, no imposing from my parents, become an urban planner, like none of that. When I decided to enter the space, my dad was like, oh, I thought you were going to be an architect. He was like, I wanted you to be an architect.
Ooh, that's a lot of schooling. That's a lot of education. So I applaud your father. That's a very detailed job.
Yeah, a lot of math.
Yeah, I was like, I don't want to be up until 4 a.m. like designing windows. Like that's just not
right.
So like that's just not. I appreciate when the windows are nice, but I don't want to be like it's very demanding. It's like next to engineering and like being a doctor, I feel like it's up there in terms of like schooling and math and all that. I'm like,
it is. Yeah. Mm-hmm. But okay, so then can you kind of walk us through? So now let's say you're getting ready to attend high school. What was that like for you? Did you enjoy school? Did you have favorite subjects, a sport that you played or activity that you like to play?
Yeah, so I was fairly active, as I said. I like to be outside, and so I grew up doing gymnastics, doing soccer and gymnastics were like the two that I was like most passionate about or most committed to, I should say, like in my youth. And so in high school, I was very focused on soccer. I played for like the city league, and I remember playing for my high school too. Prior to high school, like most of the schools that I went to were like fairly small. Like my parents put me in year-round school. So like we were in school all the time. So like we had like
your parents are smart. I love them. And I love that idea year-round school. I live in Michigan. I live here in Michigan, and they haven't brought that here yet, but that's a great idea. I like that.
I mean, like I know the parents love it. The kids are like, so like you have like, I think every few months you have like 3 weeks off or something like that. And then we have a very, very short summer. Our summer is like maybe 4 weeks or something like that. It's a very, like you're in school all the time, but you have like these periodic breaks. Anyway, so I went from small little like year-round schools that like me and my siblings could all attend together, right? So like K through, 8th, to a larger public school, a larger public high school, which is no longer year round, and it's feeding all these other middle schools and everyone into it. So it's kind of like going from like top of the food chain in this very small, like intimate setting to like getting thrown into the masses, and you're a freshman in a public school, and like you're from one of the smallest schools, so you don't know anybody, you know what I mean? And like, and also, like I said, I went from like a predominantly like white and Asian elementary and middle school to like a high school that had like a significant Black population, so there was like a lot of social norms and like cultural norms that like I just didn't know. Do you know what I mean? Like I didn't, there wasn't the music that we listened to in the middle school that I went to. It wasn't the shows that we watched when we were like, you know what I mean? Like it was culturally very different. But I remember at a very young age being like, wow, like I love seeing like all these people who look like me, you know what I mean? All these kids. And I remember wanting so desperately to like make other girlfriends who like look like me. Like finally, like there's a class of students and there are other girls that look like me with hair like mine and things like that. Like I remember just being like, oh, this is awesome. And I felt like that's when like the start of me feeling a little bit more self-conscious and also just trying to like fit in, you know? So I remember like hiding certain things, like hiding how smart I was or hiding the interests that I had, you know what I mean? I just wasn't as open and confident in that new setting. So I feel like that's when like my awareness of like how different my upbringing was in certain ways, and me trying to like acclimate.
Let me ask you this, Sabrina. Let me cut in Aubrey for a second.
Go ahead.
You said you switched over to the high school where it became predominantly more of a Black, population and so forth. Now you're very fair skinned. Okay, like light skinned.
I like to say I'm brown. I consider myself brown, Alex.
Oh, okay. You consider yourself brown.
Okay.
Oh my! And the reason why I bring that up is because I want to find out if you've ever dealt with the colorism thing, because a lot of times dark-skinned girls don't like light-skinned girls, light-skinned girls don't like dark-skinned girls, and it's an aspect of our community that we've been fighting for years that I wish would stop, but it's been an ongoing issue. Did you ever deal with that?
I think in some senses I did deal with that. I think that the real eye-opener or the real criticism that I received growing up was like, one, like what's going on with your hair? Because like I said, I have a Latina mother, right? So I'm around like these Blacks who are like, what do you do with your hair? So that was huge. And then like that was a huge learning curve for me. You guys don't know how much trial and error, like it was bad.
I could imagine.
So that was one. That was like the first like reality check. The second one was also like, I've always been a very petite woman, I've always been a very small woman. And so like I'm going to school with like, I'm going to school and I'm like one of the smallest, right, in my class and stuff like that. And like that's not what's valued, right? What's valued is like voluptuous, curvy, things like that. And so that's when I received a lot of criticism around that for being so petite, for being so small, things of that nature. And so, like I say, it was like just some cultural norms and like reality checks that I had to deal with. I'm sure there was like layers of like colorism in there as well, but those weren't like as prominent as like I feel like some of the other physical attributes that like I just didn't have,
Okay. Yeah, so you would never call none of those light-skinned names that are infamous throughout the streets.
No, not really. At least not to my face. I was like, I was like, at least not to my face. I don't know what they were doing, like, on their own, but no, not really. I didn't really deal with a lot of colorism in high school at all. Honestly, I hate to say this, but like I didn't really deal with a lot of that until I moved to the East Coast, to be honest with you.
Really?
Okay. Yeah, I didn't like, I just didn't encounter. I felt like I encountered it more like, maybe we'll get there, but like, my first time like blatantly like dealing with that was like, I was an adult. I was like 2021. I'm doing an internship on Capitol Hill. And this lady comes up to me and two other fellows. And she's like, what are you three light-skinned girls doing sitting together? She was like, you guys need to.
There it is. The light-skinned girl thing. Yep.
Well, she froze again too.
Oh, she froze. She froze again. Yeah.
I'm finding that a little surprising that on the East Coast that was something that she experienced. There she is. Okay.
Yeah. And she's like, you guys need to break this up. Next time I come around, I want to see you guys talking to people who are not light skinned like that. I want to see some, chocolate girls. I want to see some dark skinned girls in your circle. And I was just like,
as if you guys were purposely, intentionally segregating yourselves. That's,
and this is Capitol Hill. This is like a very professional setting.
Oh,
right?
I know Capitol Hill. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, and I'm an intern on Capitol Hill at this time. So to have like a staffer stop and then like pay attention to us, but not only stop paying attention and to critique us on that, I was like completely blown away. You know what I mean?
Wow.
And so I would say that, the colorism that I've experienced has been more so, I would say, since moving to the East Coast. And I don't know if it's because I'm located in Washington, D.C., technically like
lots of and then also lots of transplants too, right, from the South.
So I think that's a reason. Not to say that it doesn't exist in California, because it absolutely does. You know what I mean? Like it absolutely does. I just don't think that was like that wasn't my personal experience. I didn't experience as much of that. Mine was around, like I said, like, you're so small, you have no ass, you have no, I'm saying, like things like that.
That'd have been something that teenage Alex would have said too, because he's very much a butt man and he likes them thick.
Right, I'm saying, like, you have no titties, you have this, like, it was more so of that, like, that's
Leave me
what
alone.
I was encountering.
Leave me alone, Aubrey. Leave me alone.
She was saying you would have been in the high school making fun of me too. That's what she was saying.
You tell them, Sabrina. You tell them. Get them, girl. Get them. Wait a minute. Let me get my sound machine here.
Okay.
You tell them.
So you were never called a high yellow heifer. That was big in my day. Where we from? High yellow heifer. That was a big one.
Alex.
It was in my day.
Moving forward, and that was in New York, so that wasn't even in the South, because Alex is from Brooklyn, if you can't detect that accent of his, even though now he lives in Virginia. But Alex, you usually take this part about the first love, so I'm gonna let you take that. Okay, is that okay?
Yeah, let's get there for a second, but I want to find out, Sabrina, if you went through high school and your early adult years or late teen years, when was the first time that you felt like the love bug, or thought you was in love, whether it was a puppy love or genuine or whatever? When's the first time you encountered that?
Definitely in high school. So once again, it's like my first time really being exposed to like other students who are like Black, right? And that came with like Black boys. And so I remember being like, oh my God. These Black boys are cute. Oh my God, we had none of this in my like middle school. I just remember being like, whoa, time out, this is great. And so definitely like that's when I started crushing really hard around that time. And it was in freshman year. I had like a few crushes. And I would say there was actually like an upperclassman. So I'm a freshman, he's a junior, you know what I mean? Who I guess I caught his eye, you know what I mean? So actually I didn't even like him initially. Like he was like attracted to me, like he saw me and pursued me. And I remember being just like so flattered that like an upperclassman would even like pay attention to me, you know what I mean? And then found myself like falling in puppy love, because he was doing all these things that I had never experienced before, like walking me to class and, holding my hand and putting his arm around me and like, making this like statement to the rest of the school that like he was interested in me. It was just kind of like I'd never experienced it before. And so I found myself just like, falling. And like I had extremely strict parents, like extremely strict. Like I wasn't allowed to talk about how boys were cute. I wasn't allowed to talk about my interest in like boys at all. Boys weren't allowed to call my house. You
had some real, like my parents, real old school parents.
Like there was no such thing as having boys that were friends. Like, no, go get you some girlfriends. You know what I'm saying? Like it was there was none of that in my household. And so
your parents are going to wait till you got to college to allow you to date, I take it.
Exactly. No, that's literally how my dad felt. Like my dad was like, when you're like 18 and out of the house, you can date as much as you want. But like while you're here, like, no, you're not dating. You know what I mean? And so my puppy love at the time, he wasn't even my boyfriend at the time. He would do everything. He would do everything to like, accommodate my strict parents. Like, so let me say everything. He was sneaky. He was sneaky and he was plotting. So like he would walk, he would walk me home and then we'd like part ways at like the corner so that like no one would see that he like walked me home. You know what I mean?
Right.
Or like he would call his house and he would have like his sister or somebody like ask for me so that, you know what I mean?
Oh like, my goodness, you guys really had this planned out. Your parents didn't catch on? They didn't catch on though?
Well, the thing is, I was always on high alert because my dad and my family were like notorious for just like picking up the phone, and this is back when like there were none of the kids had cell phones like that. Like it was only like the ones who were like really had. There was only a few, but most people didn't have cell phones now. Like people had like pagers. You know what I mean? Like,
right, we were at the pager phase. I remember those. Yeah.
So like it wasn't like I could talk to them on like my cell phone, like it's the house phone, it's the family phone with like other phones in the house. And so I was always worried that like someone was gonna like pick up and like, be like, who's this on the phone with you? Blah, blah, blah. So the times when we would really talk would be like the times like after school before like my parents got home. Like that, like 3 to 6:30 kind of like time frame. That's when like we do all the like, pillow talking, all the like cute talking. That's when I would like be able to do that because as soon as they got home, I'd be like, yep, don't call me. I'll see you tomorrow at school.
Yeah, sorry guys. I had an issue for a second, dropped out. So but
she was just giving us you missed all the juicy details of first love. So moving forward,
can you hear me?
Can you see you good, Sabrina?
Can you see me and hear me? No,
I see,
we can see you and hear you.
Can you see me and hear me?
Yes.
No.
Yes, Sabrina.
I don't know if she was able to. Yeah, I don't know if she was able to see us, but we were able to see her.
Yeah. I don't know. So we'll chit chat. We'll chit chat amongst ourselves. There she is. Hold on, Alex. Okay, hold on.
Hey, I don't know what happened, guys. Sorry.
Oh, it's technology. It has its everyone says, it's great, but it has its errors, so that's okay.
Yeah.
Okay, well, since I missed the juicy tidbits of your early love life, listen.
I don't know how juicy it was, but there.
But you were married before Ready to Love, right?
I was, I was married.
So how did you meet your husband, and how long did the marriage last?
I met my ex-husband on the Metro platform in Washington, D.C. Yeah, we were neighbors, and I would see him like almost every morning, like literally almost every morning. We caught the same train in the same direction. You know what I mean?
Wow.
So like I saw him all the time. He lived in my neighborhood. And so I later found out that he was waiting for me to like come down into the station so he could see me. I didn't know that at the time. I'm like, man, this guy is always here when I'm down here, like
right.
And then we ended up like being friends and then eventually dating and so forth. And we were together for 7 years. Married for 7 years. Together for like 9.5, almost 10.
Wow.
So quite a long time.
Yeah, quite a long time indeed. Yeah. So when did you think, because I know a marriage or a relationship that lasts that long, I always tell Aubrey, she knows it, If it ends in year 10, it didn't start going bad in year 10. So when did you see throughout the marriage that maybe in year 4 or 5 or whenever it may have been that, okay, I don't see this making it, but I'm going to stick in there to see if things will change? When did you first get your first clue that we may not make it?
Ooh, I was actually really in denial about that, to tell you the truth. I don't want to say denial, but I was really reluctant to feel that way. I would say it really wasn't up until we decided to pull the plug that I was like, this can't work. Like, I remember feeling like, we can make this work. We just need to do this. We can make this work. We just got to do that. You know what I mean? Like, it was, I am a Virgo in that way. Very much like, I love very hard. And then once I love hard, it's extremely difficult for me to let go. Like, I will do anything to try to make it work, damn near. And so I can't say that it was like year this or year that. It was actually very heartbreaking to have to make the decision to like walk away. You know, it wasn't something that I ever envisioned. I will say that, you know, we had troubles along the way. We were normal. We're like human. But I think that things started to get kind of rough around year 4. Year 4 is when we like were persistently having challenges.
Right. Any children out of the union?
No, we had no children.
Okay. Did you want to have children, or do you want to have children still?
Yeah, I would love to be a mother. I think that that's one of the things that was the most difficult, honestly. One of the things that was difficult for me to accept, I think, in the ending of my marriage was like, wow, I had been with someone for so long and I don't have any children to show for it, you know, like, and then I'm separating from my ex at a time when like I mean, we literally separated at 35. You know, I'm 35. The year that, you know, the doctors tell you that, like, you know, your fertility, you know, drops in half, you know, where like your pregnancy goes from a regular pregnancy to a geriatric pregnancy, right? So like, it's this year that we're separating, you know, and I remember just feeling like, oh my God, like almost kind of like, how did I get here? You know what I'm saying? How did I get here? Because I got married at 20. Can you hear me?
You got yes. Can you hear us?
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Hello. Okay.
Yeah, she got to go out and come back. But she said she got married at 29. I think she said
28 or 29. Well, when she comes back, we'll let her fill it. It was getting juicy. I was like, okay, and she's right. It's so young. Okay, here she is. Hold on. I'm gonna add her into the stream.
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Can you hear us also?
Yes.
We left off and you were telling us you got married at 28 or 20 something.
Yeah, so I got married at 27, like a few months before my 28th birthday. And so, you know, to have ended the marriage at like 35 and not have any children, it made me question the decisions that I had made. You know what I mean? Like in terms of like family planning, because initially I didn't want to jump into a marriage and have kids immediately. I was, you know, very career focused. And so it made me question that. It made me question, you know, my ability to have kids moving forward. You know, like it just made me feel like there was a window closing or an opportunity that was like escaping me because of my age. And now I have like, and now I'm single again. I'm being thrown back into the, you know, the dating streets. And, you know, and I was never one of those people who thought about freezing their eggs. Any one of those people who thought about any of that. I just always thought that, you know, I'd be able to like naturally conceive and all this other stuff. So like I had no safety net. I had no contingency plans. I had none of that. So when we separated, I remember there was just like a great source of shame. Like, I don't even have kids out of this. I don't know if I'll even be able to have kids now, because now I'm going to be, you know, now I'm a geriatric. And I just felt, you know, like, I don't know. I just felt like I had missed the opportunity in a lot of ways. So I had like a lot of shame, a lot of fear leaving the marriage without children.
Oh, wow. I can totally relate to what you're saying. I have a daughter basically your age, and she's single. She's never been married and no children, and she lives in the DMV area actually too. So yeah,
Yeah.
I can imagine. I can only imagine that how you would feel that way. But so is that what brought you at the end of the day? So you went through your divorce, and I know that's not easy because I've been through one myself. You go through your divorce and you hear that there's a show in town. They're bringing this show to town. What were you thinking, or did a friend recommend you for it, or how did that happen?
So I love, like, the reality dating shows, reality love shows. I think that they're so fun. And so I was referred to the show by a friend, actually one of my sister's friends. And she was like, "Oh, if you love those type of shows, you'll love this show called Ready to Love. It's like she said it was the Black Bachelor. She was like, it's like the Black Bachelor. You'll love it." And I was like,
Okay.
I was like, really? Okay, So I was like, let me check it out. Oh my God, immediately hooked. And I jumped in around the time that they were doing Houston. So it was like I think it was the Resort to Love. Yeah, I think it was
Oh,
the
okay,
Resort.
yeah, the one with Rashid and Simone.
Yeah,
Okay, yeah, the
yeah, that's
resort.
when
Yeah.
I jumped in. I've never watched the Atlanta ones. I should go back and watch it. But so I jumped in then, and I was just a fan of the show. I thought it was such a great idea to have these Black professionals, like real people, real Black professionals in these cities, dating each other and putting themselves out there. I thought it was very positive imagery, right? And it shows that Black women wanting to settle down with successful careers, but wanting to find love, Black men with successful careers, and they want to I just thought it was a very positive concept and very realistic concept, because not everyone gets it right in their 20s, right? Not everyone is able to find the love of their life early on and just stay with them forever. So I thought it was a very realistic and positive concept. And so I fell in love with that. That was cool. And, it was at a time when, I was separated from my ex. I was just so it kind of gave me this sense of hope, right? So you hear all these, you see all these divorcees on the show. You see people who are widows on the show, all these things, right? So I was like, oh, it's like a sense of hope. And I just remember watching it with, some girlfriends and saying I know they're going to go to either Chicago or DC next, right? Because I was like, they're going to go to a Black city, so in my mind, I'm like, they're going to go to Chicago or DC. It just has to be. And I was like, and if they come to DC, I'm going to apply. And at the time I was following this account called Devin Your Boy, who used to cover a lot of was a blogger for the show. And I just remember seeing the casting call, hey, looking for DC professionals, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, oh, and oh my God, I knew it. And sent it to my friend. And they were like, you have to do it, bitch. You better do it. You got to sign up. You're saying, and I was just and I was just okay, I'm going to do it, and I went through the whole thing of writing a description of myself and had a whole deliberation of what photos am I going to select to send with my application, and having all my friends weigh which ones that they like the most, and all this thought into. And I remember just sending it off and being okay, whatever happens, and not really expecting to ever hear back. I was there are thousands of women who are probably applying for this, right? I didn't really expect to hear back. But I remember things started to progress. I got the call, you know what I mean? And they're like, hi, this is Ready to Love. I almost flipped out when they called me, and they were it was a short phone interview. From there, it was a panel interview. From there, it was another panel interview. From there, it's a psychological evaluation. And then
Wow.
From there, it's you say I was am I applying to Ready to Love, or am I applying to the White House? I don't know.
There's a lot to it.
What kind of clearance am I trying to secure with this show? And so, yeah, I just felt it was really meant to be, because I just kind of put it out there just to put it out there. And I remember thinking man, it'd be so awesome to go on the show and find someone who's like myself, find someone who's looking for love, the second time around, you understand? Or find someone who's a little bit older and, has these experiences, but are ready to try again. You know what I mean? Find someone who lives in the area that I live in, I just remember being so hopeful about, okay, it's going to open up a world of opportunity for me. And I'm hoping that like I meet my person there. And yeah, so I really went in with like really excited, really excited about it.
So you get accepted, right?
Mm-hmm.
And now you go on to the mixer, the first day, the mixer. Okay.
Oh my God.
You walk into it on that day. How are you feeling that day? And which one of the men, or how many of the men, like jumped out at you like he's a possibility? It might be him.
Man, I was so nervous. It was sweltering hot. Like, you live in Virginia, Alex. I don't know where you live, Aubrey, but like you live in Virginia. You know how like just humid and muggy it can be, right? And it's
like today, like today.
Yes, like today. It was like today type of heat, and it's outside. And not only is it outside, but like, you know, there's like no shade. So like
goodness.
It's like extremely hot. My hair is like, the humidity just like attacked it. And not only that, but like I am so nervous that like I am also sweating just out of like, you know, emotion. So it's like I'm sweating, it's hot, my hair's gone crazy, and I'm trying so hard to play it cool. You know what I'm saying? Like, I remember just telling myself, like, you got this, Sabrina, you got this, just go in there, be yourself, you got this. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, just like coaching myself, right? And I was the last person to walk in. So like I'm in the back. I met a few of the ladies, you know, as we're waiting to, you know, go in or whatever, or as we're waiting to like, you know, get driven to the state or whatever. And everyone's leaving. Everyone's leaving the back staging area. And I'm just like the last one there. And I was like, shit. And I think that also like built up the fear in my mind, because I was like, oh, everyone's going to be all like paired up already. Everyone's going to be grouped up already. And I'm going to have to like go and like infiltrate, right? I'm like, oh God. And I remember walking in, doing a scan, and walking up to like a longer table where there was like maybe like 6 people sitting. And I just was like very awkwardly like, hey, like, hi, everybody. And then, you know, Laverne saw me and immediately was like, hey, popped up and was like, here, have this seat. Sit right here. And
Laverne.
Okay. And I remember Laverne popped up and I looked and was like, oh, Laverne's cute. So Laverne was probably the first person that I was like, oh, he's cute. You know what I mean? And then across the table was Demetrius, but he was already engaged in conversation with, I think, Tiffany at the time. And I remember being like, oh, he's cute. You know what I mean? And so those were honestly the 2 when I first walked in that I was like, oh, they're cute. And I mean, there were other men that I saw from afar that was like, oh, I want to see them closer and stuff like that. But not like upon like first entering and first impressions, it was Laverne and then it was Demetrius. Later on, Tori like interrupted me talking to Laverne, and he had just like such a sweet, like, positive vibe, you know what I mean? And he was also very vulnerable very early in the conversation that it drew me to him. So he became someone else that I was like, oh, like, I find him interesting, I find him fun, you know?
There you go. I certainly found him fun when he came on and interviewed here. He had me sweating.
Did we hear a lot about production, creating narratives, sometimes editing or whatever, from others of your castmates. Was production like pushing you towards certain guys or trying to create certain narratives in that first mixer? You know, hurry up and go over there, hurry up and go over here. Was there any of that?
Yeah, there's a lot of like, they're encouraging you to make as many contacts as you can. Like, you know, they want you to like, you know, talk to as many people as possible. So they are encouraging people to like go and interrupt other people. Cause I remember there was a time when like everyone was talking to someone and I wasn't talking to anybody. And I was just going to like take a seat and relax because I'm wearing heels for like, my feet hurt. I was like, I'm gonna sit down. And I remember a producer coming over to me like, oh, no. They were like, if you have no one to talk to, like go interrupt a conversation. You know what I mean? And I'm like, sister just wants to rest her feet. Like I'm saying, like, I'm not really trying to have a conversation right now. But like, so there's definitely some of that that was involved at the Mansion Mixer. It is kind of like speed dating, like encouraged speed dating. Do you know what I'm saying? In that sense.
Yes.
I wouldn't say that at that point there is much steering in my point. I think that they're trying to get a sense of like who's naturally, organically connecting, who's not, you know? So at a few points in the process, you know, they'll come over to you like, who are you attracted to the most? Who are you attracted to the least? Like, they're trying to get a sense of like, you know, what are the natural connections that are forming, you know? I don't know who's saying me, you know what I mean? Like, and so I just know who I'm saying. I may overhear like a Dakia or somebody else say like who they're feeling, and I'll be like, oh, okay, that feels, you know, like, so I may hear, but like, you know, I don't know who's saying me at that time. And then, but later on in the process, you realize that they're asking you that because they're trying to configure like who should be on dates and who shouldn't. You know what I mean?
Wow. Okay. So you survived the first day because, you know, we had Keena on. Keena's a friend of the show, by the way.
Yeah,
she sure is.
Yeah, I love Keena. Cookie's my girl. We call her Cookie. Yeah,
Cookie.
Yeah.
Cookie. Yep, absolutely. And the first day, of course, you know, she and Fernando were eliminated,
right?
And everyone else survived. So, who was your first date, and what was that first date like?
Oh, who was my first
date? Is it a date we didn't see? Because sometimes the viewers don't see the dates, all the dates anyway.
Yeah, we don't.
Yeah.
Did you go out with Demetrius first, or?
So I would say that there was. So we had group dates. We had group dates. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? So I remember my first couple dates was like a group date. I remember that it was a group date. I remember being on a date with like Precious and Tiffany and Paul, and then Cornelius came on board. You know what I mean? But I would say my first one-on-one date that wasn't featured was actually Demetrius. We met up for coffee. You know what I mean? And so he was my first like one-on-one date. So it was yeah.
Oh, nice. Okay. All right. So, but the narrative that was created before we knew that you had a connection with Demetrius was that you and Tori were getting closer. How do you think that narrative came about?
Which is so interesting because like Tori and I never had a one-on-one date until after the whole ear nibble situation. So that's like another thing that people don't know. Like him and I never had a one-on-one date. Like all our interactions were just like phone calls and text messages, and then like when we would be together as a group. And so yeah, so I think that was, I mean, I was definitely attracted to Tori. So when the producers are coming up and they're like, who you like, tell us who you like, you know, I named Tori. I wasn't like, you know, I don't like him. I was like, I named Tori. Tori was one of my love interests at the time. And he obviously said that to me as well. But Tori also has, I mean, you guys interviewed him. He has such a not want to say just bubbly, but just a very kind
of laid back, maybe.
Yeah, like a laid back kind of like. But when he's in group settings, like Tori's the type of guy to get in the middle of the circle and start freestyling. You know, say, or he'll like get in the middle of the circle and start dancing. You know what I mean? And so he has a very like radiant energy, especially in like group settings. And so there was a few times when, you know, we're in group settings because this is the only time that I see him, right? Because we don't have one-on-one dates. We're just in these group dates, or in these like larger, like, you know, like the brunch where everyone comes together and stuff like that, you know? And he's pulling me to the side and we're like giggling and we're laughing. You know, he's very I don't want to say aggressive, but like proactive, you know what I'm saying? Like, you know, he's very, so in front of everybody from a very early standpoint, like he marks his territory, like I'm interested in Sabrina. And he does that in front of everyone, including the producers. And so the producers see him do that, but they also hear me saying like, yeah, he's one of my love interests too. And I think that they kind of decided to like hype that up.
What were your thoughts when you started hearing Tori talking about rearranging organs and kidneys?
That eye roll says it all.
He's so ridiculous sometimes. That's all I can say. I just think he's so ridiculous. You know, I wasn't offended by it. I was just kind of like, I just don't want to know what that feels like. That's what I don't want to experience that. But I just remember thinking that he was just being silly. I think he was, in fact, like just like a little bit serious about it. But I was just like, yeah, I'm good. I just thought he was, honestly, I was just it kind of reminded me of like a schoolboy. Like, okay, dude, here you go. You know what I'm saying? Like schoolboy, like high school humor. That's what I kind of thought of it as. I was like, whatever.
And when he was
Yeah.
here, he explained it. You know,
Mhm.
I
did.
kind of understood it because we said similar things where I'm from, but you know,
You do have you be saying stuff like that?
See, I
yeah,
told you. I
yeah.
told you. The high school in him, he haven't grown up yet.
He definitely would have been teasing me in high school. Okay, here we go.
Oh my god. Absolutely, absolutely. So, but what was the infamous truth or dare before or after the bus ride? I don't remember when you guys
It
were
was
on the bus.
after.
It was the truth or dare was after that.
Mm-hmm.
So on the bus ride, you and Tori was sitting, you know, next to each other and I guess engaging.
Mm-hmm.
But you seem to be wondering a lot about why Demetrius is in the back. He's not interacting with us. You
Right.
seem more concerned with Demetrius and not Tori at the time. So what was going on with you at the time on this bus?
I mean, guys, like, it is awkward, right? It is just so awkward to be on a date with two guys that you like. You know what I'm saying? Like, where happens? Where they do that, right? Like, it never happens. It never happens, right? And so I did, and mind you, the odds, there's 3 guys, 2 girls. And those are odds that I like, but it's just, you know, uncomfortable because that means that there's always one person out or 1/3 wheel or whatever, the, you know, 5th wheel, whatever you want to call it. And so I just remember feeling like, you know, Demetrius was definitely someone that I was like attracted to and wanted to get to know better. But so was Tori. And I just, you know, Tori's a little bit different where he's a little bit, like I said, more aggressive, more proactive. He's kind of like in my face more. So I get to like see him and talk to him a little bit more. Demetrius doesn't have that same personality or tactic or whatever. So when and you gotta mind you, we're not supposed to see each other off camera at all. We're not supposed to meet up. We're not supposed to do any of that. You know what I'm saying? So like when you finally see someone in person, you're like, oh, I'm gonna like, now we can interact. Like now we can talk. Like now we can continue the conversations that we've had over text and on the phone, like in person, you know? And I just remember being excited to have that with him. But I think it was just kind of like, honestly, just a relationship dynamic, right? Where like, it wasn't even the fact that it was just Demetrius. It was just like, even Wiley, like Wiley was talking to AP for a moment. And then he literally like turned around and was like, hey girl, what's up? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like he didn't let his seat on the bus prevent him from talking to me. Do you know what I mean? He was like, I will turn all the way around, girl, and talk to you. Like, what's going on? You know what I'm saying? Like, and so, which is the kind of effort that I appreciate. Like, I appreciate that. Right. And I remember like looking back at Demetrius a few times to kind of like try to bring him into the conversation or like let him know that like, hey, like, how are you back there? You know, what's going on? I wasn't expecting him to just like, you know, I was trying to like, you know, you try to make the eye contact, like, you know, and he just wasn't even catching it. He wasn't even looking.
You know, I want to just jump in here because, you know, I'm on these YouTube streets quite a bit. And I was wondering about that whole bus scene now. Now, this is my understanding of it. And Demetrius, if you want to come on here and clarify if I get this incorrect, but I think the way I recall, so he was on, you know, fellow content creator, Kojo, Little Black Book 91, right?
Yes.
And he was talking about that day he had told production, they told him, or they had stated to him that he only needed to go on the bus or do this or do that, like a quick little, I don't know, 15, 20-minute situation, because I believe he was in school and he was explaining that he had a class, he had a paper and this and that with his school project, right? And he had told this to production, according to him, and the way I recall it. And so when they got him on the bus and then they started driving, and I guess it was taking up all of this time, and now he's like, oh, I'm not going to make it to class. He was really kind of perturbed. That's my understanding of it. And that was why the sour face and why he, I guess, apparently didn't engage, you know?
Right.
So does any of that sound familiar to you?
No. No.
It
doesn't sound familiar at all. That's not what he told me at the time. But I will say that happened very early on. And so we're still kind of getting used to how production acts the games that they play. You know what I'm saying? We're still kind of getting used to that as cast members. And so early on, they're like, oh, just show up it'll take 2 hours. It'll take, they're telling us that. And then we're there for 5 hours, 6 hours, 7 hours, you know what I'm saying? But we don't know that going into it. And so, you know, I could very well see them being like, hey, Demetrius, yeah, we're just going to have you on the bus real quick. And then we'll, you know, you can go home. And then he's like stuck, you know, looking at the Washington Monument with us, you know, for however long. Yeah, I could totally see that. I don't think that was everything, right, that caused him to like
kind of shut down, it seemed like. From the viewer's perspective, anyway.
Yeah, I just don't think I don't think he appreciated the vibe. Like, I don't think he appreciated the fact that there was like 3 guys, 2 girls. I remember him telling me that they asked him to sit in the back, right? Like they asked him like, oh, you sit over there. So I think he felt kind of set up to begin with. Do you know what I mean? Like, why are you having me sit all the way in the back?
All the way at the back.
You know what I'm saying? Like, I think that there were other dynamics at play that caused it. But I'm sure, but I know he was like in school at the time that we were filming. So I'm not going to say that he didn't have deadlines or class or anything like that. But at the same time, you know, it was a virtual environment. So your classes are all online.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's the impression that the viewers got where, okay, we felt that, you know, Tori's all into her and she may like Tori, but she's also glancing back there to see what's going on back there. And we had AP Austin on the show, who's a lovely woman. And,
yes, I love AP.
And she said Wiley was trying to talk to her, and she basically in a nice way was like, boy, bye, you know, because she just didn't have the interest. He's a nice guy, you know. But she just didn't have that interest. So I guess that's when Wiley turned towards you and was trying to engage with you. So,
and she turned around, she talked to Tori at that point. You know what I'm saying? Right. Like, so when she turned around, she was facing Tori. He turned around, he's facing me. And we're talking. Demetrius is still back there by himself.
Right.
Do you see what I'm saying? So I do think it was like, I do want to give him the benefit of doubt to say that, like, I don't think the format was conducive to him, like, being able to, like, jump in and, like, you know, but it wasn't like he was a football field away from everybody. He definitely could have, like, you know, leaned up and tried to join the conversation a little bit. But I could understand how he felt like a little awkward by it. I just felt like it was he just seemed irritated by the whole thing.
He looked it. I mean, again, from the viewer perspective, he was over it. From the viewer perspective that I had during when I watched that the first time, I was like, well, isn't he going to say anything? Just jump into the conversation. You guys are all just meeting. You're all friends. Everybody has, the way I look at it, an equal chance to pursue the person that they're attracted to, and then let the chips fall where they may. But if you never make any pursuit. But then as I continued to watch your season, I just really kind of came to the conclusion that Demetrius is not the guy that's going to pursue a woman like that. Is that? Yeah.
That was my experience with him. I felt like, you know, he was one of those people who, mind you, I think that Demetrius gets a lot of attention from women. Like, I don't know, like him and I went out to like a bar once, right? And we're talking about like this kiss with Donovan or whatever. And I'm trying to explain what happened and explain why I didn't tell him about it and all this other stuff. So I'm like, you know what I'm saying? It's a very awkward comment. I was like, oh yeah, that was it. But anyway, we're sitting here and there's like a table of women right to our right. And when I tell you the entire table was like staring at him. You know what I'm saying?
Look at him.
And I'm sitting right there and I'm dolled up. You know, I'm doing my thing.
Right. No respect for your womanhood.
It was like, you know, full on like, I don't know, like piranhas or something. It was just kind of crazy. And so I was just like, so I know that he gets like naturally a lot of, and he even said it, he was like, yeah, maybe we should, you know, and we ended up moving, not because of them, but we ended up moving to the bar instead of at the table, but he gets a lot of attention naturally, you know what I mean? He's tall, dark, and handsome, of course, you know what I mean?
Yes, he is. Nice looking
and
guy.
So I think that I think he's accustomed to attracting versus chasing. You know what I'm saying? And not to say you have to chase, maybe chase is the wrong word, pursuing, you know what I mean? Yeah. I think he's accustomed to that. I don't think he has to like do a lot. You know what I'm saying? I really don't. And you know, that's no fault to him. If that works for him, it just don't work for me.
Me neither, girl. Fist bump right here.
Right, fist bump. So
Yeah.
That ain't working for me neither. Not that.
Right.
Not that I'm so
Right.
laid back, because if you really see someone that you're interested in getting to know, it's not a big deal for a man. And see, this is where Alex and I disagree, because he said all season that he thought that Demetrius was an alpha male, and I told him absolutely not. No, he's not. I don't know.
I still think that he is.
Well, I'm going to ask Sabrina, because she knows him better than either one of us. What are your thoughts, Sabrina?
I think that when it comes to like the bus situation, I think it's very telling how people behave in uncomfortable or less than ideal circumstances. And for me, I just really want someone who can make the best of it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And like,
in all seasons.
Life's not going to always be the way you want it. You're not always going to be able to be like front and center or well positioned or whatever. Especially like when you're pursuing a woman or you're interested in a woman, that's not always going to happen. But like showing that you're going to make the best of it, showing that you're going to make an effort, I think is like equally important, you know?
Yeah.
And so I think that that's the part that like I would have liked to see, because I think that's important to show that like your partner can be flexible, you know, your partner can adapt. And I just wasn't getting that from him early on. I'm not going to say that in the bus I knew it then, but it was definitely like that was strange, you know? So I don't think it's about him being an alpha versus not an alpha. I think it's him about like him being flexible and like, just kind of accommodating, like, just like, you know, working with the circumstances.
Right.
It's that whole thing where life gives you lemons, make lemonade, you know.
Right.
Kind of
You know what I'm saying? Like, I understand you're supposed to have a paper done. I understand that, like, they told you to sit in the back. I understand that, like, you know, Tori's in my face and you probably don't feel like cutting him off or whatever the case may be. You know what I mean? Like, I get it. All of those things, like, I guess, you know, I'm not going to deny him of that. But, like, I still think that there's such a thing as making the best of a situation, especially if there's a genuine interest.
Yes, exactly. Because my thought was really actually either any one of you three that were toward the back, you know, could have turned to him and included him in the conversation. But he himself, if he's, you know, well, I'm going to leave the alpha out of it for now. He himself could have just engaged the two of you. I mean, it's not about him just necessarily totally pursuing you, but having a conversation with a group of people and letting you know that he's interested, you know, if that makes sense. So you're including the other guy and you're bringing you into the conversation and, you know, kind of continuing to converse. And that lets you know that he's still in it, you know, as a woman. That would let you know that the man is still in it and he's still saying, hey, I like her too. So I'm staking my claim also.
And that's all I'm asking. Like, you know, it doesn't have to be like a full on, like, you know, clunk me over the head, throw me over your shoulder, and like, you know, drag me off. Like, that's not what I'm asking for. You know,
caveman.
Yeah, like I'm not asking for that. So
yeah, now he can say that for when you guys went to the retreat. That's when he's supposed to conk you over the head.
Yeah, so I was like, you know, it was like just something like you said, he could have interrupted a few times just to, you know, say whatever and then lean back, but like, you know, he was just completely disengaged, and maybe it was just an off day for him. I don't know.
Could have been. I gotta, well, hold on, Alex, 1 second. I just want to ask you this real quick, and Alex, you can go. Monique brings this question, you may recognize. She says, Demetrius ain't gonna sweat you, he's gonna let you.
Yeah.
How did that come about? You said that at the reunion.
Yeah. That's something that we say in Oakland and we say in Northern California. It's like a saying, you know what I mean? Yeah, like, I ain't gonna sweat you, I'm gonna let you. And it's kind of it's just like a certain, you know, disposition where it's like you're not thirsty to, you know, to be with someone who's attractive or whatever. Like, you're not pressed, which is fine, because you never want anyone who's too thirsty, right? Like, if you're like, you know, a hound dog and you're just like easily enamored by anybody, or, you know, it's just kind of hard to feel, you know, special. But at the same time, it's also like you want someone who knows their own worth too, you know what I mean? And who's not gonna like just be like a little puppy dog after you too. So there's like this, like, you know, you have the confidence in, like, I'm sorry?
No, I was just saying there's a balance. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to
Yeah,
interrupt
yeah. You want someone who has the confidence to be like, I know that I'm a catch as well, and I know that like I bring something to the table, but it's just that you have to marry that with like an actual like interest. You know what I'm saying? Like you can't just be sitting back too cool for school forever. You know what I mean? Especially in this circumstance. Like we're in a group setting. We're all dating each other. It's not a competition, but it is an expedited like experience where we're dating. I always describe the process as like a roller coaster ride inside of a bubble because it's consuming so much of your life that like you're not talking to family and friends like you used to. You're not going to the gym like you used to. You're not in your routine anymore. Like it kind of consumes you. So that's the bubble. But then there's this roller coaster ride in the middle of it, right? And so I kind of feel like when you're in these group settings, you kind of have to get out of your shell a little bit more, and you have to like show that you're interested. Like that's when the I don't sweat you, I'm gonna let you. That's when like that attitude, you have to pivot from that eventually.
Yeah. Okay. So now we come to after the bus ride, we go to the truth or dare, which I think it was the Laverne's idea, from what we understand, to do a truth or dare.
Yeah.
Why did you agree to do the truth or dare? And then why did you agree to the dare? And then do you feel like that was your opportunity to really get Demetrius's attention and nibble on his ear?
I would say one, I agreed to the truth or dare because I thought it was lighthearted fun. Like I didn't think that the stakes were going to be as high as they were. Like I knew that there were going to be some revealing moments, but I thought it was going to be like a little bit more in jest, like a little bit more fun. Do you know what I mean? Like I didn't realize that it was going to be taken so seriously, just to be honest with you. I was like, it's just truth or dare. It's a game. It's a game. You know what I mean? Like it's a game. So I was like, I thought we were having fun. I said dare just because I was like, man, I ain't no punk. I'm gonna say dare. That's just me probably just doing too much. So that's probably where I went wrong. That's to be honest with you. That's probably like the liquor talking, and I should have just thought about that a little bit more clearly. But honestly, I felt like even if I would have said truth, they would have been like, well, who is your? I would have had to say it versus like do some type of physical gesture.
Right.
So I felt like it was kind of like a lose-lose. And also, I don't want to be a poor sport. Like I don't want to be the person who's like, no, I'm not gonna do this, I'm not gonna do that, like what I'm saying. Like I just felt like that was whack, and so I agreed to it. I agreed to play. I agreed to the dare, and yes, definitely it was a chance for me to let Demetrius know that like I was interested in him. It was, and it was something that I wanted to do.
Yeah,
and there was. Oh, I'm sorry, Alex.
No, you go ahead, Aubrey. You go ahead.
Thank you. I just wanted to say, because as you're talking about it, it came to my memory. It seemed to me, now correct me if I'm wrong, Sabrina, but there was, before the truth or dare situation, was there an incident or a conversation with you and Demetrius where he kind of let you know that he was feeling you in a certain way? Am I correct in that or no?
Yeah, exactly. So, we talked about the whole I don't sweat you, I'm gonna let you type of thing. Like, it was that day at the pool party where Demetrius finally like pulls me to the side, talks to me, and says like with the cameras around, like I'm interested in you, like this is me letting you know that I'm interested in you. Like prior to that, we hadn't really had many interactions in group settings. You know what I mean? Prior to that, like him and I hadn't really had much on screen dialogue other than our one-on-one date that wasn't featured or wasn't shown. And so it was a huge difference for him to, one, pull me away, and two, be vulnerable enough to say like, this is me showing you that like I really like you and I want to like pursue things with you. Like that was to me, I took it as a vulnerable moment. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I took it as like, him stepping outside of his norm, and I wanted to, and it was just like, to me, it just felt kind of, just kind of like messed up to have like someone who you've been wanting to hear that from, to you know, to say that to you and then turn around and like nibble on somebody else's ear during a truth or dare, especially someone that I wanted to kind of have that. I wanted to receive that type of like interaction. I wanted to receive that type of attention from him. So I've been wanting it. He gives it to me. And then I'm like, not supposed to act on it because everyone's so used to like Tori and I flirting.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. That's what everyone has seen up to that point, basically, right?
Yeah. So that just felt like it was yeah, I just had to act on my own. And I wanted to act with Demetrius. I wanted to act
because
on that.
Sabrina, when you went over to Demetrius and nibbled on his ear, the camera went right to Tori's face.
Yeah.
And you could see the dejection on his face. Like, 'cause everybody just thought you were automatically going to Tori. So when you went to Demetrius, everybody like they gasped, like, oh my God, you know, she went over there. And then, you know, to the viewers and, you know, the YouTube streets and Instagram, this is when you started to become kind of the villain to people in people's eyes, because I guess people had such an affinity for Tori.
Right.
So afterwards, you guys had a one-on-one, you and Tori, to talk about the process. So looking back on it now, would you have done anything differently, or you just, you know, going through the process?
I mean, I probably should have rejected the dare and just been like, I'm not ready to say anything. You know what I mean? But I really do genuinely believe that in those situations, you're kind of like damned if you do, damned if you don't. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like if I wouldn't have nibbled on anyone's ear, they would have been like, oh, she doesn't know who she wants or something like you were saying. Like you're criticized so much for everything you do and don't do in this process. So it's kind of hard for me to like say I have a real regret versus just standing by my like decision in the moment, you know? But I will say that, I don't really have a regret around that. The thing about it is like, you know, I did see Tori's reaction. It honestly shocked me because there were other people in the process, right, who were talking to multiple people, but may have like kissed one particular person, right? You know what I'm saying? Like there were other revealing moments in that truth or dare. And I was just kind of like, so, and the people who may have felt some type of way around those revealing moments, you know, held it together, kind of was like, okay, blah, blah, blah. I think that I was genuinely surprised and disappointed by Tori's reaction. You know what I mean? I was like, because mind you, at this point, we're like in week 2, 3, you know what I'm saying, of this process. And, you know, I thought it was a really strong reaction. I really did. I didn't expect him to react that way, but I immediately was like, oh shit. You know what I'm saying? Like, I immediately was like, fuck, like, I got to talk to this guy. Like, I cannot, like, it was like the blood drained from his face. I was completely taken back. Like, oh, I just didn't anticipate that off of a truth or dare game. Like, I just didn't anticipate that, you know? And so, I went to, like, as soon as we wrapped the scene or concluded the game, you know, he pops up. He's like, I'm getting the fuck out of here. Like, I'm leaving. Right. And so he like storms off. And I run after him. Right. And
oh, wow.
Yeah. And and luckily, you know, the producers actually gave us like the privacy to actually talk. Like they didn't have the cameras hovering around and stuff like that. And, you know, I had a conversation with he like expressed to me like how upset he was. You know what I'm saying? He was really upset. And so, you know, I'm trying to reassure him and let him know that like, you know, I do have genuine feelings for him. I am interested in him, but like I'm also interested in Demetrius. And though as much as I love the fact that he's like invested in me and wants to explore things with me, I'm still in the process where I'm trying to get to know everyone, you know, and that like Demetrius is special to me. And I wanted to let him know that night, you know what I mean? This conversation, he's just like, if I'm not the guy for you, Sabrina, just let me know now, blah, blah, blah. I want you to be happy. Just like kind of let me know. And I'm like, I'm not saying that to her. I'm just kind of saying it's kind of early on right now. And yeah, I am attracted to other people in this process. So we have like this back and forth and we kind of agreed that like, you know, let's just take it from here. Let's figure this out. You know, we go back out to meet the rest of the cast and Demetrius is looking at me like, where the fuck have you been?
Right, exactly.
Right. He's like, where the
You
fuck
are
have you
starting to
been?
get a bad reputation, young lady.
You know what I'm saying? And it's like, and he was like, and Demetrius was like irritated, right? Irritated. And at this point, you know, Tori's standing next to me as he always had, still being super flirtatious, still doing all that, you know what I'm saying? And Demetrius is just looking at us like, are you fucking serious? You know what I mean? Like, so he was pissed off, and I was just like, I can't win tonight. I remember being like, I can't win tonight. Like, I cannot win. And I just like, and I remember just going home, just feeling just like so frustrated. Like,
but you did, you did give Tori the one-on-one that we saw. They did film that. I guess the producers felt it was necessary for you guys to have that.
Yeah.
To let him know. Tori
and I had countless conversations. Let me tell you, on camera, off camera. We had a lot. Okay. And to the point where like even him and I were kind of like, we don't want to talk about it anymore. You know what I mean? Right. Like we were desperately trying to like get past it. But I felt like it became this like focal point in the narrative. And so we were asked to talk about it more than we would have liked. You know what I mean? And I think that there were some conversations where Tori says like, you know, yeah, like I'm not tripping. Like I get it now. Like, you know, like there were, but that wasn't really shown as much. You know what I mean? Like him kind of, me defending myself, me asking him like, well, who would you have kissed in the process? And he's like, I wouldn't have kissed anybody. You know what I'm saying? Like things like that. Like they're like me trying to like us talking through these things like actually happen, but you don't see that. All you see is that him get hurt. You know what I mean? And he's kind of like stumbling through the process after that. And it was just kind of it was an unfair depiction of like what happened afterwards.
You know, Aubrey, you have anything at the moment, Aubrey?
Yeah, I wanted to kind of go back. So one of the viewers asked a question, and it was a while back, but we were in the midst of a very good conversation. But I want to ask you now, going back to Demetrius and his seriousness, we as the viewers saw him as a man of very little words. I think it wasn't until basically the reunion when we really saw him do the most talking. Maybe that was edited out, but was he a fun guy, or was he really as serious as now? If you've seen some of the episodes, the earlier episodes with him, what would you say, Sabrina? I mean, is he just a very serious kind of no nonsense kind of guy with very little sense of humor, or was that all edited out and he actually has a personality? Because a lot of people said it was like watching paint dry.
No, Aubrey, no, Aubrey.
Sorry, that's hilarious. You know,
I'm just saying. I didn't say it was, but I said a lot of people.
Yeah,
Alex.
He's I would say he is the strong silent type. Definitely that one. But I will say that if you make an effort to talk to him like one-on-one, or if you engage him, he will open up. Like he'll crack jokes, he'll talk some shit to you. You know what I'm saying? Like there's banter and stuff involved. Like he will open up and he will show you other sides of him, but that's not something that he's going to lead with, if that makes sense, you know?
I get that.
He's also more of like an observer. So like in group settings, things like that, like he's observing more than he's like engaging. So I think you see him being much more quiet in certain areas because there's a lot of people around. There's a lot of personalities. I will say that I don't consider him like a lighthearted guy. You know what I'm saying? I don't consider him a laid back guy. No, he's not. He can tend to be a little stoic at times. I'm not gonna lie. He definitely is. He can be a little serious at times. I'm not gonna lie. But I like that though. Like I don't mind that. Like there's an intensity there that like for whatever reason I'm attracted to. He's an intense guy. That is a good way of putting it. He can be an intense guy.
Okay, intense guy.
But I will say that like after a few drinks in the right circumstances, like he'll get up, he'll dance, he'll get up, he'll do something. You know what I'm saying? Like yeah, like I remember at the getaway, I think it was night 1 or 2, he had like enough drinks that night and he was like up dancing and everybody was like, Demetrius. You know, like, it's like everyone turned like, oh my God, you know what I mean? And he like so he can party, he can be a lot of fun, but I don't think that he's the type of person to be like, all right, y'all, let's like, you know, like, no, he's not gonna do that.
Yeah.
So
He's not gonna leave with that.
Yeah.
You know what's interesting, Sabrina, is that Laverne is a very assertive, confident man. And we saw that all throughout the season. And
yes, he is a very assertive and confident man.
She's like, oh no, we don't have to talk about that part again.
Yeah. No, because when they had the men had their little round table with nephew Tommy, Laverne had made a comment that, you know, me and Sabrina was on the phone. She said, I'll call you right back, and she never did. And that upset him very much. He was done after that because he's a confident man. That's an insult to him. He just was not having that. So what happened?
I'm sorry.
Those eye rolls.
Classic eye rolls. Love it.
Those are good ones.
It's just, I mean, I'm not gonna lie to you, y'all. Like, I'm not used to having 3 to 4 guys texting and calling me throughout the day. Like,
it's a lot.
I'm just not used to it. You know what I mean? I also have like a full-time job. You know what I mean? I also am filming a show that is taking 3 times the amount of time that they say it's going to take, you know what I mean?
Right.
In the middle of a work week. So yeah, there were times when I wasn't returning phone calls and text messages. Like, I got a job, y'all, I got a career. And it wasn't like I was trying to be like dismissive and stuff like that, but it was like I was having trouble balancing it, like trying to foster connections and trying to maintain, like, you know, all these conversations. Like, yeah, I fumbled. Okay, I fumbled. You know what I'm saying? But I think the more mature thing would have been like, yo, I called you, never responded, or, you know, just had just let me know. You know what I mean? But to be honest with you, I don't even think that's what it was with Laverne. Like, him and I had one phone conversation, one following the brunch where he called me, and there was just no connection. Like, we spent like, I would say like 20 minutes talking about like designer labels. And I was just like,
he was talking about designer labels?
Yeah, like what kind of designer, like what do you like to wear? Where you go shopping? Blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, you know, I go shopping everywhere. Like, you can catch me at Ross, you can catch me at TJ Maxx, you can catch me.
I know that's right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, I'll shop everywhere. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's not about, you know, where the clothes are from. It's about how I look in them. So I was like, I'm gonna buy the clothes if I like it.
Wow.
And so, but he was like, no, but like, you know, what labels do you like? Like, what do you know what I'm saying? Like, and I was like, oh, all right, you know. So I like name off like some labels that I like. Oh yeah, you know, I like them, but I like these better. You know what I'm saying? But, and I was like, is this really his way of getting to know me? Like, it's asking me about designers. This is our first conversation. And I get it. Like, you know, he's trying to keep it lighthearted or whatever, trying to keep it light. But I was like, yeah, this is whack. And I just remember being like, we don't have a connection if our conversation is going to be about designer labels. Do you know what I mean? Like, and not even just like a question, but like a conversation about it. Do you know what I mean? Right. And I don't know if he made like an assessment of like looking at me and thinking like, oh, she must be really into fashion, or she must be really like materialistic. Like, I don't know. I was kind of like, is this how you think? Is this what you think I want to talk about? You know what I'm saying?
Did you ever try to guide it to some other topics that were more fascinating for you, or would have been more interesting to see if he would, you know?
It's really hard to steer conversations with Laverne. Laverne is he's an over talker, oversharer type of person. You know what I mean? Like, I actually like that was another thing in our conversation. Like, I felt like I couldn't really get a word in. Do you know what I mean? It was almost like my voice was just like a punctuation in his like run-on sentence. Do you know what I mean? And so yeah, so I do recall trying to ask a little bit more, but like it was very like, yeah, it was bulldozed. It was just like, no, I'm going to continue down this path. So, and I think that says a lot, like, right, when you're talking to, you know, a guy and you can't get a word in.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It was just like, I'm not trying to force these connections now. Like, if our first conversation, I'm having this much trouble, like, expressing myself, I just kind of took it as a sign, like, all right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just what it to be.
It has to be organic. It really has to be an organic conversation. If it's forced, then it's not going to work.
Right.
Yeah, it's not going to work.
Are you going to ask her about Donovan?
That's what I'm coming to now. The curveballs.
Okay. All right. Like, come on.
So we get the curveballs.
Yeah.
And Donovan shows up. And what was it about Donovan that attracted you so much at the time?
To be honest with you, he was just like a fresh face, fresh breath of air. He was, you know, tall, attractive, wavy, you know. He looked good. And to be honest with you, I was at a point where I was irritated as hell by this like tug of war a little bit between Demetrius and Tori, right? Like I was irritated by it, where like, you know, Demetrius felt some type of way about me running after him. He also questioned me, like, you know, for Tori to react like that, like, what were you guys doing for him to react that seriously? Why was he, you know, like, he was kind of almost like interrogating me a little bit, like based off of Tori's reaction. And then Tori's like upset because of the affection that I showed Demetrius. So I kind of felt like caught in this like storm between the two of them. And so like in walks Donovan, and I'm like, oh, thank God. You know what I'm saying? Like someone new, someone fresh, someone neutral. Do you know what I mean? And I welcomed the energy. I was just like, oh, I just need a break. You know what I mean? And so, and not only that, but he's really easy to talk to. Like Donovan's really easy to talk to. He's social. He can be charming. He's very funny. You know what I mean? And so our initial conversations were very seamless. We have things in common. You know what I'm saying? We have similar upbringings. And so I want to say similar upbringings, but we're like, you know, we're both from California. There's just things that, like, there's a culture there that like he's aware of. He gets it. You know what I mean? Like I'm making certain references and he's like, you know, building off of that. And so it's just it was just easy to talk to, and I just felt like it was a breath of fresh air, and I was just extremely attracted to him. Yeah.
Okay. When you got something else, Aubrey?
Yeah, I'm listening to you talking. So when does that kind of change for you with Donovan? You guys are going on dates, and it seems like as audience, as the viewer, he's also saying that he basically likes you. You're number one on his list, is what he's telling, you know, in his confessionals, right? Yes. So I guess you guys go out on a one-on-one, and is this where the infamous kiss happens?
Aubrey, look at you trying to get that tea, huh? Look at you trying to get the tea.
I tried.
So what actually happened?
What had happened was
it was not the one-on-one date. It was the meet the ex date. So Donovan met my ex-boyfriend Milton, and you know, Milton had met Demetrius, met all of them at this point, and there were a few things that happened on that date that kind of also made me, you know, like pull towards Donovan a little bit more. One was he wasn't threatened by Milton, but he was respectful and warm. Do you know what I mean? Like he wasn't like, you know, Tori kind of showed up like, I ain't got nothing to say. I ain't got no questions. Like, what do you want? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Donovan didn't show up. He showed up like, hey, you know, nice to meet you. He had some questions in mind. You know, he was cool, calm, confident, but he was still like, you know, friendly. You know what I mean? He was respectful of like, this is the process. You know what I mean? So I liked the way that he had handled himself in that. There was also a time in the date where like, Tori was like kind of teasing me a little bit. It wasn't aired.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he was kind of teasing me a little bit. And you know,
was that in a playful manner or a flirtatious manner, or what would you say?
it started off kind of playful, but he had like done it a few times to the point where it was like irritating. And
Okay.
and I remember feeling like, why, like, you know, I remember being irritated, and I remember like Donovan turning to him and making a playful joke, but to be like, stop. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
And
Right.
the fact that like he picked up on the fact that I was kind of irritated and like turned to Tori and like checked him, like I was like, oh yeah, I like this man.
Okay.
I was like, I didn't even have to say anything. Like he picked up on it, and not only did he pick up on it, no, I picked on it. My ex-boyfriend picked up on it too.
Oh,
and he
okay.
was like, oh, did you notice that? And I was like, I did. He was like, I like that. He was like, I like that. And then having my ex-boyfriend say like, oh, of all the guys, like it was really between Donovan and Demetrius in my ex-boyfriend's head. He was like, for different reasons, but he ultimately said Donovan. And that also kind of, not that it was like tilting the scales, but it kind of shows that like, you know, someone who I feel like knows me is also, you know, sees the connection and sees this potential relationship being something that could work.
Yeah, it sounds like, and let me ask you this because I want to just dive a little deeper into that. What was that feeling for you when Donovan said whatever he said or did whatever he did? How did you, as a woman, how did that make you feel that he was kind of stepping up for you?
It made me feel like he was attentive, right? It made me feel like he was protective, right? It made me feel like, you know, if we were in a relationship, that he would stand up for me. You know what I mean? And it made me feel good. To be honest, it made me feel good. It made me feel seen. It made me feel like yeah, like he would protect me in the future. And I like that. I like that I didn't have to say like, oh, you know, this really hurt my feelings or whatever, you know? And he did it in a very genuine way, you know, not to be controversial, but it wasn't like a Will Smith slap, right? It wasn't like he saw me like, and like, you know, decided to try to slap towards his face.
Overreacted.
Yeah, it wasn't like that. It was like kind of like he made it a joke. He kept it light, you know what I'm saying? But there was definitely like a message behind it. And so I just really appreciated the way he handled it. And it made me feel like in the future, he would have my back.
Yeah, I'm listening to you and I'm thinking too, I guess I'm feeling all of what you're saying because that is a rare thing to find in the man, to have the social acumen to see that you're feeling a certain kind of way by your body language because you're not really saying anything, and see what this guy is doing and to kind of intercede for you on your behalf and make it a lighthearted moment at that.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, and let me say this, Sabrina, because you know, also with the curveballs came Carmen and Tina. Okay, and Carmen came in like a fireball, no nonsense. I'm here to win. You know, that's how Carmen came in. Tina, although very beautiful as well, came in a little bit more quieter. She let her beauty lead, more or less. But they both took to Donovan as well. So was that something that maybe led to the beginning of the end for you and Donovan, or did that put you guys on shaky ground at some point?
No? Not at all. I would actually say I think that like as I was turning my attention to Donovan, right, Demetrius was turning his attention to Tina and Carmen. You know what I mean? So
really,
yeah. So we have these curveballs, right? We have these curveballs come in, and we're getting to know them. And like, mind you, as I told you, I was kind of like irritated with the whole like Tori Demetrius dynamic at the time, to the point where I was like, if one more producer asked me about either one of those men, like I'm gonna lose it, you know? Like seriously. And so like, you know, not that I stopped talking to them, obviously we're all still talking, but like I don't want to talk about that dynamic no more. I don't want, you know what I'm saying? So like I just kind of, so he was a welcome new presence. And I think just like I felt like that, and I don't want to speak for them, but like based off of like what I've heard in the ladies lounge, and based off of like, you know, the less texts and phone calls that I received, right? I'm putting two and two together. I'm not hearing from you as much, but I'm hearing how you're on the phone with like Tina and Carmen till like God knows when. Do you know what I mean? So I feel like our attention shifted towards the
curveball folks.
The curveball.
Yeah,
But I never felt like because Donovan was talking to Tina or because Donovan was talking to Carmen that like I was somehow like our connection was somehow threatened or whatever by that. Never.
Right. Okay, so you meet. Let's go to Demetrius, and you met with his friend. I forgot his friend's name.
Oh my gosh.
Oh yes, who can forget? I can't remember his name, but I can remember his words.
Yeah. What was the word, Aubrey, that he used that totally like took Sabrina out? What was that word?
You're gonna need to be submissive.
That's
Missy.
it. That's the word, Sabrina. And let me tell you, Sabrina.
Sabrina's face was like
Sabrina. And the camera like zoomed on you, like the record scratched. You know, when he said submissive, the camera was like Sabrina's face was like, I do not do that. So at that point, was that turning you off? Totally turned off to that at that point?
It wasn't just that. It was like. It was that on top of the fact that he wasn't being very like proactive, right? Like, so we had this dynamic of like us obviously being attracted to each other, us having like these very deep conversations when we would talk, but in terms of like who's pursuing who and like that balance of energy of like, I call you, you call me, blah, blah, blah. Like we weren't getting into a rhythm. Like it was just not happening, right? In walks the curveballs and stuff like that. So I already kind of felt like Demetrius was one of those people who like expected the woman to come to him. Like I just kind of already felt like that, you know? And I also felt like he had strong opinions about the way things should be done, right? Like I told you, he was not happy with me when I went after Tori. He was not happy with me when he was like, he was questioning me like, why did he react like that? You know what I'm saying? Like he has very strong opinions about how things should happen and how one should conduct himself, right? And so it was these things plus the friend saying submissive that I was like,
okay.
There's a control dynamic here that like I'm picking up on. And so when he said submissive, it just kind of, it was like stringing the dots for me a little bit. It wasn't just because it was like, oh, submissive, you know what I'm saying? No, it was more like, oh wow, so this is what all those things that I was picking up on, like he's looking for someone who's gonna like defer to him, follow him. You know what I mean? Kind of just like shut up and ride type of person. So I was like, oh no, that's not me.
Yeah, because that's what I was going to ask. I said, what is it about the word submissive that bothers you or bothers some women? Because some women say, look, I don't mind being submissive, just don't try to control me. And then some women are offended by the word submissive. So I don't understand what is it about that word?
I personally believe, Alex, and maybe I can ask your opinion on it, but like, I don't think a man should have to ask or even assert for a woman to be submissive, right? I think like if you foster enough trust with the woman, she will submit to you naturally. Do you know what I mean? I think it's a natural dynamic.
Yes.
So for you to say you need someone who's submissive, it's indicating to me that that's more of a control dynamic than it is like a trust dynamic, because I feel like it's a natural outcome. And so that's what I'm picking up on around it. And so like I am, like I say all the time, like in my professional life, I have to lead. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know, I lead teams of people. You know, I am a single woman. I have to manage my own household, manage all these things, you know, manage expenses, manage. So like, there's a lot of that's on my plate, you know, just as a woman, you know, a working woman, a woman of color, you know. I would love to not have to lead in my relationship. I would love that.
Yeah.
I would love that.
Yeah.
But to have someone say that they want me to be submissive to me is an indicator that it's about control. And and that was really what I was sensing in that situation too. And not only that, it was the first thing to come out of his friend's mouth. It wasn't
right.
like,
Yeah.
Oh, so that wasn't editing. I'm sorry to interrupt you. So that was not editing. It actually was the first thing to come out of his mouth.
It was the first thing to come out of his mouth. It was. It
Wow.
wasn't like I need someone who's loyal. I need someone who communicates. I need someone who can accept when they're wrong. Like, you know, all these things that you hear about, like, you know, that you every time. It was none of that. It was like, he needs someone submissive.
Right.
And
He
to
didn't even
me,
say faithful, a faithful woman. It's
he didn't
not
say,
going to
and
be
to
with
me, I took
everybody.
that as, he needs someone that he can control, and
Yeah.
yeah, so I
Yeah.
think, mhm.
Sabrina and Aubrey and I have spoken about this.
I,
If a man is living in his true manhood and a woman feels safe, protected, taken care of, all those things, she's going to naturally be submissive to you. She's going to follow, let you lead naturally. You don't have to
Right,
ask her anything.
right.
So that's what I believe. You lead by example, and then she'll fall in. And yeah, that's the way it typically or should go. But
Yeah.
well,
everybody's throwing these words around now. So what do you say,
well,
Aubrey?
well, I think there's another component. I want to ask Sabrina this because this is her interview. So I want to ask you, Sabrina, because I know how I feel. So I'm imagining that you may have some feelings about it too. What would you say would be the conditions or the requirements that you would need for a man to be a leader and for you to want and feel comfortable being submissive to him? Because I know I have my list, if you
Right,
will.
right.
I'm not
Uh,
just going to submit to any man.
yeah. I would say I always say it's like the 3 C's for me. And I think it's consideration of my feelings, my point of views, how I feel. Communication, like communicate with me, talk to me, you know what I mean? I always say, and the third one is consistency, like showing me that you're dependable, showing me that, you're reliable. And I think that those are the things that are really at the foundation of making me feel like I can trust you. And then honestly, and then like the values that you hold that like, and how you navigate your life. Like, do you live your life with respect and honor? Like, what are the decisions that you're making like when no one's around? And I know that's hard for me to like tell as someone who's also not around when you make it, but I think it can be reflected in how a man carries himself and, the decisions he's made over his lifetime. And if you talk to him, I think that will become apparent. But I would say like the 3 C's are definitely big ones for me.
I like
Okay.
that. I wrote
Yeah.
that in the chat. I actually put that in the chat. I really like that. That kind of is pretty much in alignment to what I was thinking. Those are important factors.
And I want to.
You're not going to just submit to any guy that just says, okay, I need somebody to submit to me. I always say too, well, what is his vision? And like you said, has he communicated his vision to you? Because who wants to follow a dunce down the road into a ditch?
Right. Right. I like that. Yes. No bitches for me.
Yeah, and I want to take the time right now to kind of shout out our moderators because they're blocking some stuff, thankfully, in the chat.
Oh,
so
something going on out there? Oh, don't let me have to get off the porch.
So they're blocking some stuff. As we told you, Sabrina, we don't allow that riffraff in here.
I
try to be
appreciate it.
Yeah, we try to be very respectful. Let me ask you this, Sabrina, because this is when it got very intense. Laverne's elimination. Okay, the quote unquote conspiracy.
Yeah.
Because according to him, there was a big conspiracy, and they wanted you to eliminate him, and he wanted to go out on his terms.
Right.
I guess, and so he felt like he was set up, and you guys were going at it, and so forth. The producer stepped in apparently. What happened there? What was going on?
I really felt like Laverne was just fed up with the process. I think that the process is demanding. It is, like I said, it's a roller coaster ride. It really is. And I think that he was done with it on multiple levels. He didn't say this to me. Well, actually, he did. I think he also was kind of irritated with the fact that like he had formed a genuine connection with Ace. And as a result of that, and because he didn't have enough other connections, he was leaving. And he just kind of felt like it was hypocritical of the show, right? If the show is to come on and to like meet someone and be ready to love, like why is he being penalized for not having enough connections, although it's the format of the show? So I think that like that was a huge piece of it. I think it was like the stress and just like BS that goes into like producing a show that he was tired of. And I think it was him trying to go out with a bang. Like it definitely was. Like you know, he told me, he's told others that like, it wasn't about me. I think he used the opportunity. It wasn't about me. He told me, he was like, Sabrina, if it wasn't you, it was anybody else, they still would have caught that heat. Like it would have been anybody. Do you know what I mean?
He kind of called Precious out at that point.
Right.
So actually girl like Precious, like all you guys were conspiring and Precious was a big part of it and so forth. So
and I found that surprising that he would even say that about me, because like Laverne had been in my bottom choices, you know, the people that I had the least amount of connections with since the very beginning, you know?
Yeah, since the label talk.
Yeah, you know, and exactly. And I had been in his bottom since the beginning. Like he had consistently said, like, Sabrina's not it for me. Sabrina's not it for me. You know what I mean? And so for me, it's like, there was no conspiracy from my end. Like we have consistently not been in each other's top. Like there's no reason for me to like, there's no motivation, right, for me to do that. And so I just thought it was really unfortunate. It's a lot of, you know, telephone, unfortunately, behind the scenes. And I think honestly, he kind of just used it as an excuse to go off. I really don't think that he genuinely felt that way. I think it was just like one more thing that pissed him off. And then here I am, and he just let me have it.
Right. Mm-hmm. Wow. Okay.
One of our viewers has a question. And they want to we want to kind of backtrack a little bit to the scene to you're back at the retreat and you and Demetrius are in the hot tub. Mm-hmm. Is there a particular reason why you didn't feel comfortable giving Demetrius that kiss in the hot tub during that scene with Joy, and she was with her man oh my Clifton. God, Clifton, yes. Mm-hmm. And you were sitting over on big, strong, dark, handsome Demetrius' lap?
It felt performative, right? It felt like, you know, like cameras are there, kiss, you know what I'm saying? Like Joy's like, kiss, you know what I'm saying? I'm just like, chill. Like, can we have like, I wanted it to be organic and natural. You know what I mean?
Right.
I just didn't want to be forced into kissing anybody. That's not my style. This is, you know, this isn't grade school. So it wasn't that like I didn't find him attractive, and you know, we were talking to each other kind of spicy in the hot tub.
That's what he said, because he had a great big old smile. I think that was the first time I ever saw him smile in the season.
Yeah, you see, like we were talking, so we were talking what I'm saying, but like, yeah, it just felt very performative, and I just didn't want to do that at the time. I mean, like him and I did share a kiss at the retreat off camera, but like, like I don't know. I'm just not about like kissing someone just because like there's like lights, camera, action right there. You know, it's not me.
Right. Mm-hmm. Right. Okay, that makes sense. I kind of get it now, because in the moment, and I'll be honest, I'll be totally truthful with you. In the moment, not having heard you say this just here and now, and just watching it as a viewer, I felt like I kind of sensed that might have been it, but it did also feel maybe a little awkward. Let me tell you, it almost felt like, Sabrina, that had she not said that, because I believe that was Joy that kind of encouraged you guys to kiss, right? Kept saying kiss, 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 right? Mm-hmm. I think it almost like as if she hadn't have said it, we probably would have gotten the kiss a few seconds later, perhaps. I don't know. It's, you know.
Yeah, I mean, it does put you in like an awkward scenario to have like people like, you know, peer pressuring you into kissing. It's just like I said, it's very grade school. So perhaps, I don't know. I can't say what would have happened. The conversation that we were having was definitely in that direction. But I don't know. I also wasn't sure how Demetrius felt about kissing on camera either. You know what I mean? Like he probably would have been down. Yeah. I can't say yes or no. I would say that.
Well, did you forget that he kissed you at the Truth or Dare? He kissed you on your lips. Remember?
Oh, he did. Yeah. I think for me, it was just more so. Like I said, it just didn't feel natural in the moment. It definitely was an awkward situation.
Okay. Yeah. So it was just all about awkward. It had nothing to do in that moment with actually not really feeling him, because you clearly, before she said that, you two seem to be enjoying one another.
Yeah, because like before that, I don't know the way that it was portrayed. I can't really recall, but like, you know, we have this like kind of awkward conversation about like, hey, I need to see more from you. Like, like, let's focus on each other. Let's stop like focusing on everything else, blah, blah, blah. Like we had made this agreement to like do that. And then we were like, okay, let's go to the hot tub. You know what I mean? So I definitely felt like we were trending in that direction. We were trying to be like more affectionate, more in tune and stuff like that. So yeah, a kiss was probably on the way. It just felt a little bit like a spectacle.
Okay. Got it.
Well, at the retreat, I guess you and Tori had another talk. I guess this is when you friend zoned him, and said we'll just be better off friends. Of course, he didn't want to hear that at that time. I guess he was still hanging on to a little hope, and you led him toward the friend zone, which men hate being there. Let me just I'm just gonna say, men don't like the friend zone when we want a woman, but yeah. I guess you friend zoned them. And so after that, why do you think that production had you eliminate him? Why? Because let me tell you something, Sabrina. Let me say this, Sabrina. Let me say this real quick. It's like the narrative they were trying to create was Sabrina's going to be the villain. We need a villain. So am I correct in that or no?
It was definitely a setup. It was definitely a setup. And to be honest with you, at the end of our like ladies lounge with nephew Tommy at the retreat, you know, he was like, okay, which one of y'all is going to send the next guy home? And immediately we were like, Carmen, because Carmen had never done it. Do you see what I mean? Like I had went through like, you know, the war with Laverne, you know what I mean? Like, you know, all these other, everyone had done it. You know what I'm saying? I think like, you know, Dakia did Wiley and I think Joy did Cornelius or something like that. Or something. Yeah. So like we all had done it at the table. So we're like, it's Carmen's turn, you know? And so he was like, all right. You know, it's going to be Carmen. We walk inside, we're chilling, whatever. I get pulled outside by production and they're like, yeah, we're going to have you send Tori home. And I was like, no, not gonna do it. No. And they were like, no, we really needed to come from you. We think it's gonna deliver better if it comes from you. He'll take it better if it comes from you. And I was like, absolutely not. He's not gonna take it better if it comes from me. It's gonna be the opposite. He's gonna hate me even more. Are you crazy? And so, and we stood out there like for a minute going back and forth about it. And they were like, no, we really need you to do this, Sabrina, you know? And so when I decided to do it, I decided to do two things. I decided to try to make it as like positive as possible, which is why you see me talk about like the attributes of like both Tori and Paul, right? Like before I was like, I'm trying to like be positive about it. And the second thing was like, I'm going to give Tori a heads up, you know? And so before we even get lined up for nephew Tommy or whatever, you know what I'm saying? Like I find Tori. And I'm like, Tori, you know, you're the one to go home tonight. And they've asked me to be the one to tell you. Right. And he was like, I knew I was going to be the one to go home. He said, okay. Like that. Right. And I was like, all right. And then we walked to where we were, to where the elimination happened. And so, and that was my way of respecting him because at the pool party, that was his biggest thing was like, don't blindside me again. Like I was blindsided by you nibbling on Demetrius's ear, whatever. That was his main point. Right. So like ever since then, like I have gone out of my way to have a conversation with Tori before anything significant had happened. Right. And so I find them, I tell him that. And then you guys saw the elimination, you know, and as I'm up there, right, like delivering this, like trying to be all heartfelt about it, like and genuine, like, you know, Tori, you're this type of guy, but like you're saying all this stuff. Him and Paul are joking. Him and Paul are laughing, right? Like they're giggling and stuff like that. And so I see this and I'm trying to be serious. So now I'm smiling because they're smiling and they're giggling to the point where production was like, hey, guys, stop. Like, let me, you know, like, you know, can you be serious? And so, you know, it happens, blah, blah, blah. Tori goes home. He gives me a huge hug. He gives other people a hug, blah, blah, blah. And, you know, even after that, I tried to go after him. Like, I try to find him, right? And production was like, whoa, where are you going? And I'm like, I'm trying to find Tori. Like, I want to make sure he's okay. Because once again, I'm the one delivering the bad news. And they were like, oh, he's doing his exit interview right now. Like, you can't see him. And I was like, it's really important for me to at least be able to see him before he goes. Like, I really want to be able to see him before he goes. And they were like, okay. They never told me about it. They kept me separated from him. He went home, and I didn't talk to him again for a long time.
Wow. Yeah. Well, yeah, he was hurt by that, obviously. And I knew, Sabrina. I said, Paul and Tori are standing there. Sabrina is going to do the elimination. Tori's gone. I mean, I just knew that. I knew it was a setup from a viewer's perspective. But
I didn't realize that they were painting me to be the villain in that moment. I should have. Like, I should have. It should have registered. I knew it was a setup. I knew it was set up, and I knew it was going to look bad. But you know who actually told me that was Paul.
Oh yeah.
Paul was like, "They're setting you up, girl." Like, and I was like, Paul told me that, and I was like, "No, Paul, it's gonna be fine." Like, blah blah blah, all this stuff, and he was like, "No, girl." He actually told me that at the retreat. It didn't register in the moment. It really didn't. You know, no one wants to send anybody home. No one wants to be in the position of having to deliver bad news. You know. It didn't be so. To your original question, like, no, I didn't know at the time that they were painting me out to be a villain or to be this questionable person. But now, in retrospect, looking back on all the things that they did and like all the things they chose to leave out and stuff like that, it has me feeling like that more.
Yeah, yeah. Aubrey, you got anything at the moment?
No, I've got an emergency, guys. I'm gonna have to. I got a really bad emergency right now. I'm going to have to wrap this up.
I'm so sorry.
Okay.
Sorry for the abrupt end. Sabrina, I want to thank you. I want to thank you so much for coming out and helping us out and doing this interview. I'll reach out to you tomorrow and get your information to put on the description. Okay. I want to thank you so much. I want to thank our moderators, and I'll go ahead and drop you down right now. Okay.
Thank you. Thank you, Sabrina.
Thank you so much. Alex, I've got a very bad emergency. I have to say good night. Okay, guys, thank you so much, and we'll see you on tomorrow. Okay.
Okay. God bless you.
All right. Bye now.
All right.